Hello, everyone, and welcome to Creative Connections. My name is Kevin, and it's great to be hosting today's session again. I would like to start by firstly warmly acknowledging the traditional custodians and owners of countries throughout Australia, and also pay my deep respect to elders both past, present, and future. I invite you to share the country or land that you are connecting from today in the chat room. We are currently on screen. There is a PowerPoint holding slide with some text and some video boxes and of our guest speaker and Auslan interpreters. I, the host, am a fair-skinned man with brown hair and wearing a blue shirt, a grey t-shirt in front of a black background. Welcome to our next session focusing on digital adaptation. I look forward to introducing you to our guest speaker, Brad Holder, in a few seconds. That's joining us from Port Hedland in Western Australia. The aim of our Creative Connections series is to support you during this complex period with new learning. It's an opportunity to take some time and make some space to explore and share new knowledge together. But before we start and before I introduce you to Brad, just a reminder of some of our housekeeping features. Again, you will be able to access live captioning via Zoom or through our separate system called StreamText. And you can access it via Zoom by clicking on the CC link at the bottom of your screen. Brad will be answering some questions at the end of the session, and I know you're going to have many. I have. So please pop those into the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. And if we can ask you to move those questions in that part, not in the comments, so that we don't miss or lose your question. Also, if you need any support, please just raise your digital hand and the amazing team in the back will be able to support or lend a hand. Please note that today's session will be recorded and we will send you a link in the coming days. Also, immediately after Brad's presentation today, we invite you to stay around for a few more minutes. To join us and to hear from Sydney Festival Director and Chair of the Australia Council Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Arts Strategy Panel, Wesley Enoch, as he introduces and invites you to tonight's First Nations Arts Awards. So please stick around for a few minutes at the end. So I now would like to introduce you to Brad, who is joining us, like I said, from Western Australia. Now, I am a confessed geek, an amateur techie, and today's session is a little bit my guilty pleasure. And I look forward to geeking out with you and with Brad, our special guest, about all things tech. So let me quickly introduce you to Brad. Brad is the founder and managing director of PCC Productions. And PCC Productions is an audiovisual hire and sales services that specializes and operates throughout Western Australia. Brad is also a musician and also a theatre manager. Several weeks ago, just as COVID hit, Brad published a great how-to guide on all the technical aspects around online streaming. And it struck me that it was a really accessible way of learning about the technologies that some of us might never have come across, but now we might be interested or might have already started playing with. So specifically looking around streaming, so you might not be streaming, but I hope that you will learn some great new skills out of today's session. So we will get our geek on and Brad will guide us through some of the key technical equipment, concepts and best practice around online streaming. I know that Brad will be kind if you're a novice or if this is new to you. So hi there, Brad, and thanks again for joining us. it's really great to learn from you and to explore some of these concepts. So I'll hand over to you, and I believe that you've got some slides to share with us.
That's right, absolutely. Thank you very much, Kevin. I'm just going to pull these up now. Thank you for the very kind introduction. That was fantastic. I too would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that I'm on today as well, which is the Kariyara people. Now, as Kevin said, my name is Brad Holder. I'm the Managing Director here and founder of PCC Productions based in Port Hedland. We do audiovisual hire all over the region and events, event management, all of that kind of stuff. So we generally work with a lot of festivals, bands, corporate events, any of that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to flick through on my slides if I can get them to work here. There we go. Excellent. So here's an event we did last year, just to give you a bit of a picture of kind of what we do. So that was an event for a carol show that was in December last year. So our goal is really to support artists and events and producers and just help to do what you guys do best and leave the artwork to you, and we get to take care of the tech side of it, which we love. So fun. PCC has really been my side hustle as well. It started in about 2006, I think, is when we first started doing small events and little baby events in the community here in Port Hedland. And it wasn't until September last year where I took it full time. When I did that, I kind of ended my love affair with the Matt Dan Theatre and Cinema over about 15 years. So I know that some of the guys from the Matt Dan are tuning in today. So hi to you guys there. A big shout out to you. And also to all of our previous staff as well who used to be there over the years. So look, I tell you that I'm also a musician, but I tell you that also mainly because I know that in the arts world in particular, it can be overwhelming at times through COVID and what's going on at the moment. And I totally see you and understand that, you know, arts people are so busy. We're all multitaskers. We're all doing so many things at once. And I think that that's a really big thing. So to then throw streaming in this as well is a crazy thing, because you guys are so busy as you are. And I know from being in the theatre world, that there would be times where I would be on the phone working on a contract negotiation or something like that, and straight away the next thing I'd be doing is restocking toilet paper or something like that, and going then straight to the box office to solve a problem with the box office ticket printer or something along those lines. So I totally get it. We know that you guys are busy people, and that's where I come in with this as well, is that here today, the goal here is that we can kind of help fast track your learning a little bit. The streaming can be such a big topic and such a big thing to get your head around, to do it really well. So we really want to give you the opportunity to kind of fast track that a bit. And I'm really excited to share a bit of what I've learned here over the past sort of 3 years in the live streaming domain. So about 3 years ago, the church that I volunteer at, C3 Port Hedland, decided that they wanted to delve into live streaming. And at that point, I was obviously an AV guy, but I didn't know a whole lot about streaming. I knew a little bit about video, but I didn't know how to take that into a broadcast context. So I've learned a lot over the 3 years. I've certainly had some fun with it. I've made some great things happen, and I've also made some terrible things happen. So I have made my fair share of streaming mistakes. So that's where I want to kind of give you guys a bit of insight into that today. So you can kind of fast track yourself a little bit, which is cool. So about 3 years ago, we started streaming on a piece of software called OBS, which is a free piece of software that you can get on Mac and PC. And the idea is that we were streaming just the audio only. We just wanted to get our messages out on a Sunday morning for an hour and a half. We were sharing just the audio only in kind of like a bit of a radio station context, I guess, in a way, of what was happening, so that people who couldn't necessarily come to the building could connect in with us. So we started that then. From then, it kind of developed into, I guess, a bit of a video side as well. So we added on the presentation, the PowerPoint, I guess, that we were playing on our screens. We added that onto the stream as well. And then eventually we moved to getting some cameras on board, and it's grown now to be a little operation where we have about 5 tech crew every Sunday, and they work every Sunday morning bringing the experience to people online, and it's awesome, and we really love it. And that's probably a 4 or 5 camera setup with all sorts of extra tech bits going on as part of that, and comms, in-ears, tech hosting, chat hosting as well. So we have a few roles as part of that. But I just wanted to share this image as well of the Matt Dan before I forget. So this is the theatre and cinema that I was a part of. So the live streaming guide. So we came out with this guide that Kevin talked about as well. It is online on our website for free. You can check it out. It does cover a lot of what I'm talking about today. So if you missed something or you want a bit more information on something, just jump on our website. This is on there for free, and it's got all of the information that we'll be talking about today in it and a little bit more. So make sure you check that one out. But you might be asking at this point, you're probably wondering, why should I start streaming now? COVID is starting to wind up a little bit. We're starting to see a few things starting to happen again. Why should I bother starting to stream at this point in the middle of it now? Well, I actually think that there isn't a better time to start streaming. And the reason for that is well, there's actually a couple of reasons, but the main one is that people are now a lot more receptive to streaming. The audiences online are much bigger, and there are a lot more people looking for content and are content hungry online right now. You've also got the other side of it where I think online streaming right now means that you're no longer constrained to the physical location of the people around you. So instead of just bringing your art or your work to people just in the area, you can now bring your art and your work to people all over the world. And I just love that concept because it really does create a fantastic online community with people coming together all over the place. So that is such a good thing. And yeah, I think there's also been a really major shift in expectations with streaming as well. One of the things that we used to talk about before COVID hit was actually that that if you couldn't do a really great online stream, then you should probably think about doing it in the first place, because sometimes people will be turned off by that and they won't necessarily want to come back to your stream later. But I think that has actually really relaxed through the time of COVID, and people are a lot more, I guess, what's the word for it? I guess they're more excited to see online streaming, and they're more keen to check it out in this period right now. So you could start now and then build into a really great product through time. So absolutely. So today we're also talking about streaming for everyone. So this isn't just a really techie session, and it isn't just a really basic session. We're going to be somewhere in between the two. So if you are a tech head, then hang in there. There are some little techie components in there. And at the same time, if you're just brand new to streaming, then stick around, because we're going to be talking a little bit about that as well. But hey, why don't we jump in? We're going to look at first some definitions. So these are some little things that you might need to know about online streaming to kind of get you up to speed a bit quicker. So the first thing is you've got the HDMI cable. Now this is a pretty basic thing. Most people have heard of this before. This is the cable that connects TVs to DVD players. It connects all sorts of different pieces of hardware together. But something you probably didn't know about this type of cable is that you can't actually run it more than 15 meters. So if you have a HDMI cable that's more than 15 meters long, you're probably going to have a lot of dropouts of signal. So what we do in that scenario, if we've got our camera, for example, that we're plugging into our streaming gear and it's quite far away, maybe more than 15 meters, what we do is we use something called SDI cable. This is a type of cable that uses BNC connectors. You might have seen this, you might have not. This isn't super important if you're brand new to streaming, because the chances are you might be just working off an iPhone to start with, which we'll talk about very shortly. But a BNC cable lets you run over, I think it's about 100 meters. And you convert your signal from HDMI to BNC, and then you run it over the distance. So that's a really, really great way for larger venues or larger streaming productions to get your signal over a long distance. And there's a new thing that has sort of just started to emerge in the past sort of 6 to 12 months, and this is called NDI. Now what this is it's Network Device Interface. And what this actually does is it's basically like an SDI cable. You can run it over long distances, but it works over a network. So the ordinary, you know, your Cat5 cables that you plug into your computer, it works over those cables. So if you've got a network in your building already, then chances are you can run NDI. And there's a lot of cameras that are coming out now with NDI plugs on it, which is literally just a Cat5 computer port plug. And you can run that in your existing infrastructure, which is really great. Automatic pan tilt zoom cameras, PTZ cameras, they tend to use this as well, which is really cool. Other way, there we go. So encoder, what is an encoder? Well, an encoder is a software or hardware piece of equipment that lets you stream to the internet. So it's your interface between your cameras and what's happening on stage and the online world. So this is typically either a hardware piece of equipment or it can be software in your computer. Facebook Live, for example, if you're using that on an iPhone, it automatically has an encoder already built in it. But once you move into the bigger streaming world, you have either a hardware or software dedicated encoder as well. The stream key is basically a secret code. So this is a code that you enter into your encoder, and what this does is allow you to stream to the web. So anyone with that code is able to stream to your channel, whether that's a YouTube channel or a Facebook Live channel, wherever it is. If they have that key, they can get onto your channel. So we always keep that really hidden, and that's a secret code, and most of the software will blur it out as well, so that no one can kind of get into your network and stream on your channels. Video switcher. So a video switcher is basically it's a bit like an audio mixer, like a soundboard, but it's for video. So what it does is you plug all of your cameras into the switcher. Again, this can be a hardware piece of equipment, or it can be a computer-based piece of equipment. And what it will allow you to do is actually switch between your different cameras at different times during your stream. Important thing to recognize with this is that some of the switches don't actually carry a constant connection with your cameras. And what that'll mean is when you switch the connection, it'll actually take 10 or 15 seconds sometimes for it to actually find the camera. So what you want to do is make sure, for live streaming purposes, make sure that you've got a constant connection switcher. That is really, really important for your stream. So yeah, I hope that gives you a little bit of an insight to that. But we're going to talk a little bit about internet speed. And the reason for this is because this is one of the most important factors when you're streaming online. I know that a few of you guys online are probably looking at, you know, what kind of cameras do you use and that kind of stuff. But there are a few things that it's really important to look at before we even get to the camera stage, because these can really be the handbrake on your stream. And again, one of those is internet speed. So one of the other important things with internet speed is to look at your upload speed. Now, lots of people always think, I've got a really fast download connection, my connection is great, but you need to actually look at the upload speed on your connection, because the upload speed is what you're gonna need to be able to put your content onto the web. So that's really, really important. Now, this is measured in something called megabits. And it's really easy to do one of these tests. The best thing to do is to open a website called speedtest.net and do this from the device that you're going to be streaming from, if possible. And you'll be able to find out what your connection is. So you can see on the left of the screen here, we've got the internet speed screen. On the left of the screen, we've got a column that says image resolution. Now, what this is how many pixels are on your screen. So generally a 480p stream, for example, would be 720 pixels wide this way and 480 pixels wide this way, tall, sorry. So that is how we find out what our image resolution is. So 480 is quite low quality. You might have seen these numbers on YouTube, for example. If you're watching a YouTube video, there's a little gear icon down the bottom that you can click, and you can actually change the quality of the image resolution that you're watching. So what we're talking about here is 480p, 30, which means 30 frames. And what 30 frames means is it's basically the amount of images that are basically in the video per second, because a video is obviously made up of lots of little photos. So in a 480p 30 stream, you've got 30 frames or 30 photos per second in that. Now 30 is generally, 24 is standard cinema. Up to 30 is about normal for an online stream. Some people stream all the way up to 60 frames per second, but that's not always necessary if you've got a lower connection speed. So here where we work, we stream up at 30 frames. You've also got 720p 30 and you've got 1080p 30 as well, which are the sort of the more common stream speeds. Now, to be able to stream those speeds to the internet, you've also got to have the right kind of connection. So the recommended upload speed for a 480p connection is 3 megabits. You can get away with kind of 0.6 megabits, but it won't be very clear. So you really want to make sure you've got at least 3 megabits for that kind of speed. 720p is 6 megabits, and 1080p, which is a term many people have probably heard, this is full HD, is 13 megabits. So those figures are from boxcast.com. For us, we have found personally that a 1080p 30 stream, we need at least a constant connection of 5 meg, and that's 5 meg solid speed to be able to do that. So even though it says on the chart 2.7 megabits, I wouldn't recommend it. I would say make sure you've got at least 5 meg to get on that speed. So the next question you're probably asking is, what about 4K and what about 8K and all these really high resolution stuff that kind of all the TVs are coming out with at the moment? Well, the really interesting thing about this is Facebook still only accept 720p 30. So whatever you put into Facebook, it's going to actually downscale it to fit 720 anyway. So I would say that look after your bandwidth, stream at 1080p or 720p, and then that will mean that you'll have a really solid connection and the quality is still great. Most of the viewers are still viewing our content today on smartphones. That is the most widely used piece of hardware to view the streams at the moment. And based on that, it means you don't necessarily need a big 4K or 8K connection. 1080 is plenty for doing that. So let's move on to the next thing. And the next thing is actually talking about lighting. This is one of the things that, again, is so easily looked over when we talk about online streaming. I think a lot of people forget that the camera needs to capture the lighting well in order for the stream to look good. So you could have an incredibly expensive streaming setup, but if your lighting is not good, then it's not going to be helpful for your stream at all. So we're going to take a look at a couple of different key ways of lighting. So the first thing is your key light, which you can see on the bottom left of the screen here. There's a light, which is called the key light, and that's pointing onto a person, which is our subject. And you can see there's also a camera in front of them, and the key light is at a 45-degree angle from the subject. So this is your main light when you're streaming online, or you're doing maybe an interview style video. This is kind of the main light. It's the most important one to have. It's the one that lights the person up the most. So let's pretend for a moment that we've got our key light at 50% of its brightness. So we can turn it up or down in brightness. If we've got it sitting at 50%, then our fill light, which is the second light, this will be on a 45-degree angle on the opposite side of the camera. So if you picture a camera in the middle in front of you, if you're the person speaking, and then a key light on one side and a fill light on the other side, your fill light needs to be at about 25% brightness. And the reason for this is because the fill light is just to fill some light. It's not actually, you can probably see on my face here actually, I've got a key light coming from this side and I've got a fill light coming from this side, and it's a bit darker, but it actually helps to make you look a bit more three-dimensional. If you just had a front light directly in front of you, you will look very 2D. The third thing is having a backlight. So the backlight again needs to be duller again. So let's say this is, if your key light is at 50%, your fill light's at 25%, and your backlight needs to be about 5 or 10%. And a lot of the time, this could be a blue light or a white light. And what it does is just add a little bit of light around the subject's head. And it's almost called a hair light in some instances as well, because it creates a little bit of a faint glow behind you. And it's good to either have this directly behind the subject or off to one side behind them. Let's have a look here at what we can see with a couple of different lights. So this light here is room light only. On the screen at the moment, there is a girl sitting on a chair in an interview setup. And at the moment in the shot, it's quite dark and dull because all that is on is just the room light. So there's only room lights on there. The other important thing to note as well is that as you move into more professional camera gear, the lighting becomes so much more important because the camera needs bright light in order for it to do its job properly. So if you can see this shot here, it's basically got a girl sitting on a chair and it's quite dark because it's the room lighting only. So the next thing we do is we add a key light on, and you can see straight away the image is much brighter and she's much more visible. The whole shot has become much clearer, and really no settings on the camera have actually changed at all. And this is a really great guide that you can also check out as well. I've borrowed this from a video guide from Indie Mogul, his YouTube channel, and I just find this video so informative about lighting for video. I think it's a really great one, and feel free to check it out because it's a great guide. So in addition to this, we might have a fill light as well. I think in this instance, they've actually used the room light as the fill light. Generally, if you can avoid it, I would say don't use your room light. Turn your room lights off, because it just helps the camera so much more when you've just got a good key light and fill light coming at the subject. So in this shot here, they've now added, you can see a backlight, and you can see the area above the lady's head now. It's the same shot, but you can see that her hairline is now glowing, and that's from the backlight that you can see the arrow here. The backlight is coming down onto her shoulder and giving her a little glow around her head. And then you can see the last thing that these guys have added in the shot as well is a backlight. So you can see, a background light. And you can see in the doorway here, they've put a blue background light, and what that's done is actually helped bring out the color in the subject and made the shot just look a lot more interesting. So these are some really simple things you can do to really make your video really accessible and look really good. Even if you're just streaming off a single iPhone, these kind of framing things that you can do will really lift the quality of your stream a lot. The other thing to note as well is that the closer you actually move the lights to the person, the softer the light will become and the softer it will look on their face. So in this particular example, they've got the light very soft and very close to them. And I think that looks great for what they're aiming for in this particular shot. So moving on to the next thing. The next thing is audio. Audio is such an important part of your stream as well. And it's really, really key to making sure that people can get the information from your online stream. I actually think that the audio is more important than the video. People will forgive bad video, but they won't forgive bad audio, because if they can't understand it, then it does make it very tricky for you to translate your message across to them. So an example I've got on the screen at the moment, you can see there's an iPhone on the screen. And what I've got there is a smart lav microphone. So this is a Rode microphone, and it's really inexpensive. But what this allows you to do is to clip the microphone onto yourself, and it plugs directly into your phone. So if you're streaming on Facebook Live via your phone or an iPad or even a computer for that matter with your webcam, you can use one of these microphones to really increase the quality in a really great way. Wherever possible, I would say try not to use the microphones in your cameras, and try not to use the microphones even on your phone for any streaming if you can avoid it. The quality of them isn't great, and adding an external microphone like this is really going to enhance the quality of your stream so much. Cool. So back to the start. Just catch ourselves back up. Bear with me. So the next thing we'll be talking about is actually one of my favorite pieces of kit at the moment. And this is a little piece of hardware called the Rode Video Go. And I really love this little piece of hardware. This is a little wireless microphone that you can get. There is a little 2 square packs on the screen, 2 little belt pack type units. One is a receiver and one is a sender. And these are fantastic pieces of equipment. They are wireless, and one of them actually has a microphone built in it, and the other one is the receiver as well. You can also plug in an external sound source into it. So let's say you're at a theater or you're in a live scenario where you've got a soundboard and maybe a sound guy who's doing the sound mix. You can plug their sound desk directly into this little unit, which will then transmit the audio wirelessly to, say, your iPhone or your iPad or a computer or even a bigger streaming system. So these are currently one of my favorite pieces of equipment. I absolutely love them and highly, highly recommend them. They also have their own audio settings in them. So you can actually turn down the volume if it's too loud coming into your phone or any of that kind of stuff. And you can also plug in an external microphone to it as well. So you can see the same microphone that we just talked about previously on the screen there. And this can plug directly into the small pack as well, which will let you clip on the mic onto your shirt. Which is great. And there's also some magnetic clips you can get for it, which are on the screen as well. Or this little, I guess, handle, if you will, which is basically, it turns it into a handheld microphone. So you slot the microphone section into the top of this little mic, and it becomes a little handheld microphone that you can use for interviews or on a stream or anything like that. So they're really, really great. Highly recommend it. And yeah, you will, one more thing about them though, you will actually need another adapter if you do want to plug this into your phone, called the SC4. So make sure you have a look at that one as well. All right, time to talk cameras. And I know that a few people are probably going, yes, cameras, I've been waiting for this part. So we're going to get into the cameras. But to start off with the cameras, the question I get a lot is, can I just use the cameras that I already have? I've got some DSLR cameras, or I've got a GoPro. Can I use these for my stream as they are? The short answer to that is yes, you can, but there are some limitations. The first thing to that is that you need to get a clean output from the camera. So if you plug we talked about HDMI cabling before, if you plug your HDMI lead into your camera and then plug it into your stream, you might see something like this. And this is what we call a dirty screen. Now, the reason for that is because it's got all of the battery metering, it's got all the monitoring, it's got all of those extra pieces of information on the screen, and that would be going out to the stream. Some cameras do let you disable this, whereas other cameras unfortunately don't. And generally, unless you're after this kind of a shot, which generally you're not, you really want to get a camera with a clean output or capability to have a clean output from it. The other problem that we run into quite commonly is DSLR cameras, which are a great photographic camera, but a lot of the time their sensors will overheat after a few minutes with a lot of the models. So that is one thing that is quite common. So you might be streaming for, let's say, 12 or 15 minutes, and then the sensor in your camera will overheat. So DSLRs aren't always the best option for online streaming. And you just need to make sure that if you are going to go down the DSLR route, or you've already got one and you'd like to use it, make sure that you actually check to see if it will overheat after a few minutes or not of doing video content. Excellent. So we're going to get now into our little guide. So what we did in our streaming guide that's on our website, we actually bundled some packages together. And the idea in this was so that we gave people some levels to start their streaming with. There's 3 levels that we start with, which are relatively cheap, inexpensive ways to start streaming. So there's level 1, 2, and 3 of smart device streaming. And then you hit a point where you need to decide whether you want to go hardware or software based. And from those, then we've got 3 more levels in there where they kind of range into some more higher end streaming options. Bit of a disclaimer though, there are many more options than what we've talked about in this guide. These are just some really great packages that we believe work really well and are really easy, user-friendly ways to get streaming quickly. So to start off, we've got our level 1 streaming. The idea in this is that you're just streaming to something like Facebook Live or YouTube Live directly. And to do this, all you literally need is an iPhone, and we recommend grabbing a tripod as well. Now, one thing I found is Kmart actually has some really great tripods at the moment for about $19. So they're really fantastic, really cheap way to get you really streaming well, very quickly. Literally tripod and a phone, and that will get you going. So that is a super, super simple solution. The next kind of solution is level 2, which we've talked about as well almost. So we spoke about having the iPhone and having the tripod that you can see on the screen there. And we would also add one of these little Rode Go audio units that we just spoke about as well, the little compact wireless units. And I think these are fantastic. And the SC4 adapter that I was talking about here as well. So combining all that together, that'll mean you've got a really great single camera shot going straight to Facebook Live or YouTube Live or wherever it is you're streaming with a really great quality audio on it as well, which is so important. I think that is such a good way to do it. And I should also mention that the Rode Wireless Go's are about $300. On top of that, we have our smart device level 3. Now, I think this is a great solution for a lot of people as well, because this is a way that you can use a piece of software called Switcher Studio. Now, this is available on the app stores for iOS devices. I'm not too sure about Android. I haven't actually had a look. But what it allows you to do is use your iPhone cameras to transmit to the iPad, which then pushes it out to the internet. So your iPad becomes your switcher, becomes your video mixer, basically your video switcher, and your iPhones become, or iPod touches or any other iOS device becomes your video feed effectively. And you can set up multiple angles. I think you can have up to 9 different cameras running at once on your phones. And you can even control from your iPad, you can remote zoom the cameras and control all of their features from that. And again, I would look at getting a few of the tripods that we talked about before for your phones, the Rode wireless unit as well. And if you happen to have a sound desk or something in the venue that you're streaming from, you can plug your sound desk directly into that unit as well and transmit wirelessly all of your audio straight through to your iPad and push it out to your stream on Switcher. So that's a really good way to do it. It's at this point that we have to make the decision whether we go for hardware or software based, because beyond kind of this level 3 area, you start to have to invest quite a bit more money into the setup. So it's a good idea to decide whether you want to go hardware or software based, because once you hit this point, it's hard to jump between the two because they're quite different equipment in some ways. So we're going to kick off with software first. So we call this the in-the-box version. And I mean, for me, I'm a Mac guy, but I like Apple Macs, but you don't necessarily need to use a Mac for any of this stuff. A lot of it is available on Windows as well. But for the purposes of this, we've put on here that you will need a good Mac. And the other thing is that if you're working on the software model of this, your computer's got to be really, really good, because your computer becomes your encoder, your computer becomes your video switcher, and it becomes the main piece of hardware that's actually going to process all of the video and put it out online. So what we recommend is to make sure you've got a really, really high spec computer if you're going to go through the software route. And then you could use a piece of software called Open Broadcast Software, and this is called OBS for short. And this is used by people all over the world. It's a free open piece of software that you can actually stream from very easily. You can download this for free at any time and check it out. It's available on both Mac and PC for sure. And at this point, that's when you would look at possibly getting yourself a bit more of a professional camera as well. So we've put in there the XA40. We use an XA35 and we love it. The new version of it is the XA40. And it's just a really versatile camera that allows you to get a big zoom range and it handles different light levels quite well. So it means that you can get a really wide gamut of different shots out of the one camera. And if you're going at this point to look at a one camera shot with a professional camera, then you do need something that's very, very versatile like this to be able to do that. We also recommend at this point that you get something like the Blackmagic Design Ultra Studio Mini Recorder. I know that's a bit of a mouthful, but that you can see that on the screen there. It's a little box that lets you plug your camera directly into your computer. So it's called a capture card. And what it does is it basically takes the video that's coming in from your camera and basically makes it a webcam. So that OBS, which is the streaming software we just mentioned, can pick that up and actually push it out to the web. We would also recommend then still obviously getting a wireless Go unit so you can get nice clean audio in at the same time. Moving on from that, we've got our level 5 package. Now this again is very similar. At this point, we would recommend basically the same type of setup. The only difference is that we would add our iPhone in and our tripods for our iPhones as well. So we add them back in and start using them as additional camera shots. It's a very easy thing to do, and use that with something a little bit more high end. So you'd probably move away from the software of OBS and maybe look at something like Wirecast, which we can talk about in a little bit. And also possibly add additional hardware cameras as well to that. Level 6. So this is really where you're really taking it to the next level. So this is quite a high-end package now. You probably would have a budget of 5 to 10 grand for something like this, maybe even a little bit more. And this is where you're looking at multiple different cameras, multiple different angles. You could have 2 to 4 different cameras. We've got the Canons in there that we just spoke about. You can see them on the screen again, Canon XA40s. And also the little Marshall CV502s, which are a great little camera. They're a very tiny one. I've actually got one here, actually. I can probably show it to you. It's this little camera here. So they're fantastic. They're very, very small, as you can see. They're a tiny little format camera. And these were actually used, I think last year or the year before, to identify the winning shot at the Super Bowl. So they are a fantastic little camera. They're very affordable, and they're a very tiny little frame camera as well. So have a look at those ones as well. At this point, because you're getting multiple camera feeds, multiple hardware camera feeds into a software unit, you're actually going to need a dedicated input unit of some kind. So we would recommend getting something like the Wirecast multi-input hardware. And this is a dedicated piece of equipment. It's a physical piece of equipment that lets you plug all of your cameras into it and then plugs into the computer for your streaming. You're also going to need some good tripods. You still need a very solid computer as well, because your computer is still processing all of the video for all of these 4 angles. And at this point, we recommend having some kind of sound desk or some kind of controller in there as well, as you can see. So that's basically the software progression. Again, this isn't a one size fits all, and you can go through and you can actually get bigger packages, smaller packages, all sorts of different sizes for this. There are many, many options on the market available and many sorts of different customization packages that you can actually do. The next thing we recommend is the hardware model. Now, for me personally, I like the hardware model a bit more. And my reasoning for that is because I like having a physical piece of equipment in front of me. And I also really love the fact that you don't necessarily need the biggest computer in the world to be able to achieve this. And it lasts a little bit longer too. Computers obviously need upgrades every 3 to 5 years. And that they can start to lag and that kind of thing. Whereas the hardware, if you've got dedicated hardware, I find it lasts a little bit longer in some cases. So what we recommend is this brand new unit on the market for the hardware, first of the hardware levels, level 4, which is a Blackmagic Design ATEM Mini Pro. And I know that's a mouthful. It is a bit of a mouthful there, but it is a great little unit. Now, what this allows you to do is actually, it's your video switcher. So you can switch all of your camera angles from it. You can have up to 4 cameras plugged into it, and it becomes a little switcher. There is literally nothing else on the market in this range, with this range of features for this price point. I think this is $800 or something like that. And any other switcher that has even remotely close to these capabilities, you wouldn't find for under a couple of grand. So this is a brand new unit. And the thing that they've just added to it as well is they've actually added, in the Pro version, they've added a streaming function, which makes it incredibly easy to be able to stream straight from this little unit. So you can plug it directly into your computer, and what it allows you to do is control the streaming setup from your computer. So you literally press a button on the little hardware on the video mixer, and it will push your stream straight out to the internet. It's so easy. You really can't go wrong with it. The limitation of it though is that it is HDMI only. So again, as we learned before, you can't actually run your cameras more than about 15 meters away from the switcher, unless you grab a whole heap of extra adapters and extra things to run the distance. We recommend also this piece of software called Pro Presenter. It is predominantly made for the church industry, and it basically is a more high-end version of PowerPoint. But what it will allow you to do is actually run lower thirds, which are when you see someone's name come up at the bottom of the screen or any of that kind of information. It allows you to put that onto the screen very easily, and it looks very professional. So highly recommend checking out Pro Presenter. It's a really great piece of software. And we would also recommend the type of camera to get would be a Blackmagic camera in this setup. And the reason for that is because the Blackmagic little video mixer that we just spoke about integrates so well with the little Blackmagic cameras. Now, we haven't put a lens option in here for this package. You will need to get a lens as well for that one. But the idea is that the Blackmagic cameras integrate so well, you can control all of the coloring and everything else from the little mixer with your computer plugged into it. So highly recommend that one as well. And then of course our little friendly Rode Wireless Go unit as well, because we just love having clean audio through that. Level 5, which is the next step up, is really the same package again, except you're just adding more cameras to it. Where possible, again, we recommend getting the Blackmagic cameras because they work directly with the video switcher. And that I think is a really, really great capability to have that extra control from it. So highly recommend that. And then also our level 6, which is kind of the big video hardware version. This is really pro end now. Again, you're not going to get change out of 10 or 15 grand for this kind of setup. So we're not going to delve too deeply at this point, but effectively what it is a bigger video mixer with 8 inputs. At this point, you have to actually have a separate encoder, which, as we learned before, an encoder is the interface that converts the camera to the internet. So you have to have a separate hardware encoder. And we recommend some bigger Blackmagic Studio cameras to go with that as well. And also our little Marshall cameras or anything in that range is going to work really, really well with this piece of hardware, and Pro Presenter as well, to be able to get some professional lower thirds and different pieces of information on there. Awesome. So look, any other tips? If I was to say other tips, I would say backup is going to be definitely a major thing. If there's one thing that I have absolutely learned in online streaming, it's that you need to have a good recording backup of your data. I always find that sometimes your internet might have a problem or something like that. And if your stream stops, then you've completely lost everything. So what we like to do is we run a little SD card recorder, and we run that with our video rig so that we're actually recording and capturing everything. So that if for some reason we have a connection problem or something faults, we can still capture the video live and then post it up later for people to watch, because that's a very real risk that we come up with when we're streaming online is faulty connections or bad connections or, anything like that. So highly recommend that. Another thing that people always ask me is, how do I stream to more than one place at once? So a lot of people might be looking to stream to Facebook Live or YouTube or both, or there's other sources like Twitch that some people want to stream to. So what I like to recommend is a web-based service called Restream. Now, this is a really great service. What it lets you do is you point your streaming encoder, whether you're streaming from a single iPhone or a bigger switcher system, what it lets you do is you stream from your streaming system to this web-based portal. So you put in the streaming encoder key for that service. And what that then allows you to do is push it out from there digitally in the cloud to many different sources at once. I think it allows you to send it out to 30 different sources at once. And that's a really, really great way of getting your stream out to multiple places at once at a very low cost as well. Another tip as well is it's important to have some engagement with your live streams. So just like the amazing Ozco guys have done today, they have got chat hosts on right now who are chatting with everyone. And I think that is such an important thing to make sure that you've got people who can engage with people, because broadcasting and online streaming is such a one-way medium in a lot of ways. I mean, I literally can't see any of you guys right now, but I can see your comments. And that's really cool to be able to have the chat host comments there, and to have someone that can respond straight away with responses to that as well, I think is so key and important for keeping that connection happening. So super important. And the last kind of tip I guess I've got is that a lot of people ask me, where do I locate my streaming equipment? I personally am, at least in the sort of medium to bigger setups, I'm a believer that you shouldn't be able to see the stage or the talent while you're actually streaming, if that makes sense, physically with your eye. You should be seeing it through a screen. And the reason for that is because subconsciously, our eyes tend to gravitate towards the stage or whatever we're filming. And then we kind of assume that the person on the other end of the screen can see what we're seeing, when in reality they can't. So locating your switching gear either away from the stage or at least spinning it around so that the person operating it can't see the stage is a really good way to go, because it means that they're going to be seeing the stream through the same thing that the person on the other end of the screen is going to be seeing it. So yeah, hey, look, I think as content creators, it's really our job to keep what we're doing in our world right now alive, to keep the vision happening and keep the goal happening. And I think that that online streaming is such a good way of doing that at this moment. So look, good luck. We are here if you need any help or anything like that at all. And thank you very much. I hope this has been helpful.
That's been really great, Brad. Thank you so much. Boy, there was so much in there. I realized I didn't have my lapel mic. I also recommend those. I think you can buy them at like JB Hi for like 60 or 70 bucks. They're really great. Now, if you're okay, we're going to jump into some questions, if that's all right. Just bear with me a second. I'm just going to swap share my screen, if that's okay with everyone. So there's a bunch of questions that's come in, but if you have a question for Brad, feel free to pop it into the Q&A section. So first of all, we've got a question from Claudia, which is, I think, a great question around the specs that you need for your computer, whether that's a Mac or a PC, to run some of these things. So for instance, OBS. So you sort of said it needs to be a high spec. Can you give a little bit more details around, what is that? I'm sure it's maybe a bit more complicated to answer.
No, totally, no problem at all. Look, I think it's really dependent on what software you're streaming with. So if it is OBS, for example, I'd have a look on OBS's website and see what the rough specs are for that product. All of the different packages that you stream with will have some minimum requirements on their website. But as a kind of a rule of thumb, I would say I wouldn't start with anything under about 16 gig of RAM, and as fast a processor as you can get your hands on, really, and an SSD hard drive, definitely. If you're recording to the machine as well, then chances are it's going to take up a lot of hard drive space very quickly. So make sure you've got a really big hard drive as well, or removable hard drives or something that you can store your data to. So we use Google Drive for a lot of our stuff. So we'll upload our streams and everything. Once we finish with it, we'll upload it to Google Drive and store it on the cloud up there, just so we're not having to manage big video files on our machine all the time. So, yeah.
Okay, next question. Also some great questions. Any advice, so this is from Liz, so any advice around streaming video sources from multiple different places? So particularly if, let's say, like we're doing today, where there's multiple video sources coming in from different locations, apart from, let's say, Zoom. So Zoom is, of course, one option, but you sort of talk about OBS. Is those sort of things possible in other ways that's got potentially higher quality? Do you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, definitely. One option that I would definitely look at is a piece of software called Wirecast. Now, what Wirecast is it's basically, it's like OBS. It becomes your switcher. It's a web-based piece of software. But what it lets you do is actually let people have the Wirecast app on their phones as well. And they can actually remotely kind of call in, I guess, to your stream through that. And then you can push them live at the right time. So that's a really great way to do it. And it's a really professional way of doing it as well. So definitely check out Wirecast. There are various other options as well. I think another one is called StreamYard, which is free. And that's one that you can use online as well, where you send people a link and they can just come online on their phone or from a PC or Mac as well. So yeah, there's a few different options out there.
Okay, Monica made a suggestion, and I'll maybe take that as a suggestion, asking whether the Australia Council can buy a few of these setups and set them up in various locations across the country. That's a pretty good idea. Thanks for that, Monica. But we'll move on to another question, which is from Matt, wanting to know what mic are you using for this recording?
For this recording, I believe it or not, I actually haven't got my Rode mic with me today. So I'm using the MacBook microphone, which is exactly what I said not to do. But the thing with this is that I'm in a very controlled environment. So we're actually in a soundproofed studio space. which sounds quite good in here. So it's not such a big issue. But I would always recommend definitely adding the Rode mic or another kind of close mic option if you can.
Well, I think that's all the time we have for questions today. Brad, thank you so much for the time that you took to prepare for this presentation for what sometimes seems, you know, really inaccessible to imagine. But and also thanks for the nuance around going through all of those sort of various options from a starting point to really complicated stuff. So good on you, and thank you so much again. So it was great to have you today.
Thank you very much for having me, actually, and I really appreciate it. And thank you for you guys as well and what you guys are doing at the moment in keeping this kind of content accessible for people. I think it's so key right now. So thank you to you and the team.
Right. Well, before we leave, just a couple of sort of quick announcements, and also, as I said, that special note from Wesley. But today we've launched a whole bunch of new webinars, so please check those out. And I invite you to register to many or as many as you would like. These sessions have been run by you, our arts community, so please check them out, ranging from some amazing sessions on how to create dance GIFs to some complicated issues around artist-led education programs, to articulating your value and impact when it comes to advocacy. So, and a bunch more. So please check those out. So before we go, we've just got a quick video to share from Wesley Enoch about the event tonight. So just give me a second.
Wesley Enoch, thank you so much for joining us today, and I believe that you're going to discuss with us the importance of the First Nations National Arts Awards 2020.
Yes, these awards have been going since, well, 1993 in different forms. And this idea of a chance for all of us to get together and to celebrate the achievements of First Nations artists from around the country. And it's the first time ever that we're doing this live broadcast because, you know, COVID-19 and what's going on in terms of lockdowns. We're going to be talking to the nation about what's important, how we're going to celebrate a number of award winners and recipients along the way. And for those people who are out there now watching, you can get online. You actually best to get online and check out the Australia Council's website, australiacouncil.gov.au, and just make sure you can link in and make sure you can come and watch it live. But also you can download this app. This is the first time too that you'll be able to live comment, depending on where you are in the country, what time zone. It's at 6 p.m. on Wednesday the 27th, Sydney time, but you can live comment and give your congratulations to the recipients of the awards, even give your ideas about, you know, why it's important to be celebrating First Nations artists at the moment, and give this real sense of what your achievement has been as well in your practice around the country.
And I think it's really quite extraordinary that we're coming together and we're looking at, well, what is, I guess, ceremony? What is gathering in a digital space? And how do we do this? You know, this notion of coming together annually at a very important date when the referendum occurred all of those years ago, and where are we as a multi-clan groups and language groups and genders and practices today? And I think that that's what's so unique about these critical national awards in paying respect and not just acknowledging the lifetime custodial contribution of our diversity of our peoples.
Well, I know that this conversation we've been having around digital sovereignty, the online space doesn't relieve us of any kind of responsibility to look at our own kind of cultural practice and protocols, etc., etc. We are in fact prototyping new ways of expressing our culture through the digital form, and that the idea of digital sovereignty is as much about self-determination, and that not letting the system stop us from doing what's right for us. I mean, I'm already learning the idea of how do you wait and listen to everyone speak before you speak in a world where you can't get all the little kind of nuances of listening and eye contact off? How do you make sure that you pay that respect to each other in terms of a listening format? And I love this idea that the First Nations Arts Awards are an extension of all this. And maybe for the first time, people who, because normally we would hold these in Sydney at the Opera House in the last few years anyway, and now we're saying, oh, actually, this is a way of sharing it with the whole country. And, you know, there's lots of different ways of operating. There's the person to person, there's the person to a group, but now we're actually able to have more fluidity where it's not disrespectful for people to have opinions and to express those opinions while something else is happening, for it to be a wonderful fluid exchange. And I really encourage everyone on the 27th of May, on Wednesday 27th, to get online and to share your experiences and to share your stories and your congratulations to these award winners, because I think it's one of the first opportunities for everyone to be together. Yes, we've been doing the round tables, you've been doing these opportunities of speaking as now, but the idea of saying, let's lift each other up at this moment too.
Please join us tonight at the First Nations Arts Award. And thanks again for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time.